Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today, a little special. If you look at the banner above the digital door today, it reads, "A Powerless Mage Presents."
A Powerless Mage Presents.
A Powerless Mage Presents. It definitely has a vibe to it. It sounds like the title of a fantasy novel you'd find in a dusty bookstore.
Doesn't it? And I know as some of you are thinking, you're probably checking your app, making sure you didn't accidentally download a Dungeons & Dragons recap or, I don't know, a history of stage magic.
Right.
But stick with us. This isn't about pulling rabbits out of hats, and it's definitely not for academics sitting in ivory towers just debating theory to, hear their own voices.
No, we promise we are not here to grade papers.
Exactly. This show, and specifically this Powerless Mage series, is for the everyday person. It's for you if you wake up on a Tuesday, look at the ceiling, and just feel that gnawing, heavy sense of dissatisfaction.
That feeling of being stuck. Yes, stuck in a loop. Wake up, work, sleep, repeat, and you're just desperately looking for a way out. So when we say magic today, we aren't talking about wands. We're talking about practical magic, the very real and very difficult work of changing your own reality.
Changing how you perceive the world, and then consequently how the world reacts to you. It's psychology, it's philosophy, but it's applied to the grit of daily life.
Precisely. And today we are diving into a text that, quite frankly, it shook me up a little. It's a reflective essay titled Power, the Most Destructive of Enemies. And it's based on the concepts of Carlos Castaneda, specifically around this idea of the path of knowledge.
That's a heavy title. And Castaneda he's a heavy figure.
He is. And look, before you tune out thinking this is going to be some dry anthropology lesson about shamans in the desert, let me just clarify. This is not a news report.
No.
This is a survival manual. It's a guide for anyone who has ever wanted to be in charge of their own life.
And that really is the hook, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the question we're starting with today is so simple. Who doesn't want absolute power?
I mean, let's be honest. I do. Or at least I think I do. We all have that fantasy, right? If I just had the power, the promotion, the millions of dollars, the authority to tell people what to do, then all my problems would just evaporate.
You see power as the ultimate solution.
Yes. But the mission of this deep dive today is to flip that entire concept on its head. We are going to find out why power is actually considered a dangerous enemy.
In fact, the source material argues it is the most destructive enemy you will ever face.
So here is our mission for the next hour. We aren't just exploring this text, we're trying to persuade you. We want to convince you that the way you currently look at control and influence and authority, it might be completely wrong. And if you stick with us, we want to offer you a safer, more effective path, a path the text calls service.
It is a massive shift in perspective. It's about moving away from this idea of conquering the world to force it to do what you want.
Right.
And moving toward the idea of aligning with reality.
That sounds a lot less glamorous than conquering the world.
It does. But it is infinitely more effective. Conquering is exhausting. Aligning is empowering.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why power is the enemy, we have to understand where we are on the map. The source text talks about the path of knowledge. This isn't a university degree, right?
No.
How does the text describe this path?
It's important to visualize this. The path of knowledge isn't a straight line where you just accumulate facts like books on a shelf.
Yeah.
You don't just get smarter and smarter until you win.
Okay.
It's described more like an obstacle course or really a battlefield. You don't just walk it. You have to survive it. And there are these distinct enemies you have to fight along the way.
And there's a specific order to them. You don't just wake up and fight the final boss. You have to get through the gatekeepers first. Before we even get to power, we have to deal with its predecessors.
Right. The very first enemy that's mentioned is fear.
We all know that one. But let's dig into it. This isn't just like being scared of the dark. What kind of fear are we talking about here?
This is the fear of the unknown. It's that deep insecurity that hits you the moment you try to change anything. It's that voice in your head that says, who do you think you are? You can't learn this. You're not smart enough.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Stay in the false comfort of what you already know.
So it's basically imposter syndrome.
Exactly. It paralyzes us before we even begin. And most people never even step onto the path because fear stops them right at the door. They prefer a miserable known to a scary unknown.
Okay. But let's say you beat fear. You push through that insecurity, you sign up for the night class, you start the gym routine, you read the books, you actually start learning. Then you meet the second enemy, which is clarity.
Clarity.
Now hold on. This is where I get tripped up, because clarity sounds like a good thing. We all want clarity. We want to know what's going on. Why on earth is clarity an enemy?
This is a really, really tricky trap. Once you conquer fear, your vision clears up. You start to understand things. The fog lifts. You learn a few concepts, and suddenly everything seems to make sense. But the enemy here isn't the knowledge itself. It's the arrogance that comes with it. Clarity blinds us with the certainty that we now know everything.
Oh, I see. It's the sophomore slump. It's that moment when you've read like 3 books on a subject and suddenly you're lecturing everyone at the dinner party because you think you've reached the end of the road.
Yes, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect, perfectly described.
Yeah.
You know just a little, so you think you know it all. You think, I've got this figured out. I see the whole path. I know all the answers. And that certainty stops you from learning anything else.
You stop exploring because you think you've already arrived.
Exactly.
I've definitely been there. I remember when I first started learning about nutrition, I read one book and I became unbearable. I was telling everyone what to eat, criticizing their lunches. I thought I had clarity, but I was really just annoying and, partially informed.
That's the trap. It gives you a false sense of victory. But if you can overcome that, if you can realize that your clarity is just a stepping stone, a tiny point of light in a massive universe, and not the destination, then, and only then, do you meet the third enemy, power.
So power isn't something you just start with. It's something you earn after you've beaten fear and realize you don't actually know everything.
Correct. The source makes a very important distinction here. Real success in this context isn't just theory. You can't just read about power in a book. You have to gain real experience. You have to have lived through the fear and the false clarity to actually arrive at a place where you have genuine influence.
And that's when the real danger starts. The text uses a central metaphor that I love. It says, power is like fire.
It's a perfect metaphor. I mean, think about fire. It creates warmth. It makes civilization possible. It cooks our food. It purifies. It can transform metal from a solid block into liquid gold. It's a tool of immense creation. But if you mishandle it, if you don't respect it, or if you get too close without any protection, it burns the house down. It destroys everything it touches.
And the source says this is why power is the most destructive enemy. Because unlike fear, which feels bad, power feels like a victory.
Precisely. Fear feels like an enemy. You know you're fighting it because you're sweating and your heart is racing. Power feels like a prize. It feels like you've won. I'm finally the boss. I finally have the money. But it's actually a test.
It's the ultimate test of character.
It is. And it's so seductive because it feels like the solution. But if you aren't ready for the heat, it will consume you.
It's that old saying, be careful what you wish for. We spend our whole lives climbing the ladder, fighting for that management position or that influence, that platform. And the moment we get it, we realize we're holding a live wire.
And that is where the destruction happens. Not usually from the outside, but from the inside. It corrupts your ability to see yourself clearly.
This brings us to the first big reflection point of the episode. I want to ask you, the listener, to just pause for a second. Think about a time you finally got exactly what you wanted. Maybe it was a promotion. Maybe it was a relationship you chased for months. Maybe it was a position of authority in your community.
Did it solve your problems?
Right. Did everything suddenly become easy? Or did getting that power just expose you to new, hotter, more dangerous fires? Did you suddenly have to deal with jealousies, with complex decisions, with the weight of other people's expectations? Ask yourself, are you actually ready for the heat of the things you claim you want?
That's the question. Because if you aren't ready, getting what you want is the worst thing that can happen to you.
Okay, so we've established that power is a test and, well, a potential trap. But let's dig deeper. We keep using this word power, but what does it actually mean in this context? Section 2 of our deep dive is asking, what is power really?
It's a word we throw around constantly. Political power, willpower, purchasing power. But the source gives us a very specific definition.
It does. The definition is, power is the capacity to influence reality, to change it little by little.
To change reality. Just let that sink in for a moment.
It sounds momentous, like something a wizard would say in a tower. I change reality.
It is momentous, but it's also very practical. It is the ability to turn your internal desires into external facts. It is the ability to look at the world, see something you don't like, a messy room, a broken system, a bad law, and reshape it to match what is in your head.
Okay, but here's where it gets complicated. The source argues that the root of all our suffering comes from a disconnect between our mind and reality.
This is the core argument. We suffer because reality is not what we think it is. We have a map in our heads. That's the mind. But the terrain, that's reality, is completely different.
Can you give us a concrete example? I feel like mind versus reality can get a little abstract pretty quickly.
Sure. Think about driving. You have a map, maybe an old GPS, that says there's a bridge ahead. That's your mind. You're confident you're driving 60 miles an hour. But in reality, the bridge was washed out yesterday.
Okay.
The suffering the crash happens because you insisted the map was right instead of looking at the actual road. In life, we think we're strong. In our minds, we're these resilient, tough heroes. But then reality hits us with a crisis, a loss, a failure, and we crumble.
Right.
The suffering comes from the gap between I think I am strong and the reality that I need to become strong.
Or we think we're smart.
Right. We think we're intelligent, but then reality presents a challenge that we can't solve. The problem isn't the challenge. The problem is our delusion that we were already above it.
Yeah.
To align with reality, we have to admit where we actually are, not where we think we are.
The source mentions that finding our true self and its place in reality is the hardest challenge. Why is that? Why don't we know who we are?
Because we are buried. We're buried under layers and layers of social conditioning, false ideas, judgments, customs. I mean, from the time we're born, we are told who to be successful, be quiet, be aggressive, be like your father. We wear all these masks.
We have a work mask, a parent mask, a party mask.
Exactly. So we don't even know who is running the ship half the time. We're just swapping costumes depending on the situation.
And this is why power is such a game changer then, and why it's so seductive.
Yes. Because power allows you to bypass all the hard work of finding yourself or aligning with reality.
How so?
Well, if you have enough power, you don't have to change yourself to fit reality. You can force reality to change to fit you.
Oh, I see. So if I'm delusional and I think I'm a great leader, but I'm actually terrible, if I have enough power, I can just force everyone around me to treat me like a great leader. I can fire the people who disagree with me.
Precisely. You can change the rules of the game. You can turn your desires into facts, even if those desires are based on lies. You can bend the world to sustain your delusion. And that feels great to the ego. It feels like relief. Finally, the world matches what I think.
But it's a trap.
It is the ultimate trap. Because you aren't growing. You're just warping the world around a broken core. You're essentially using a cheat code in the game of life.
That is a terrifying thought. It's like using a cheat code in a video game to skip all the levels. You win, you see the ending credits, but you didn't actually get any better at playing the game. And if that cheat code ever stops working,
you're helpless.
Right.
And eventually, the game always crashes. Reality always wins in the end.
So let's turn this back to you, the listener. Look at the frustrations in your life right now, the things that are making you angry or sad. Are they happening because reality is wrong? Or are they happening because you are clinging to a false idea of how things should be?
It's a really tough question to ask yourself. What if the problem isn't the world, but your refusal to adapt to it? What if you were trying to use power to force a square peg into a round hole instead of just, rounding off your own edges?
That's the reflexive question for this section. Are you fighting reality or are you trying to align with it? Are you trying to burn the bridge or build one?
And that leads us directly to the two ways this can go. The source outlines two scenarios for handling power. We can call them Scenario A and Scenario B.
Yeah, let's call them the clean path and the corrupt path. So let's start with the ideal. Scenario A, clean power. This sounds nice, but what does it actually look like to arrive clean?
To arrive at power clean means you've actually done the work. You are conscious of your true self. You know what you genuinely want, not what society or your parents told you to want.
The text mentions a trio of alignment here: vocation, service, and desire. Let's break those down because they seem essential. Vocation is a heavy word.
It is. We usually think of it as just a job or a career. But here, vocation is much deeper. It's described as a mix of your genetic emphasis, which is a fancy way of saying your factory settings.
Your natural talents.
Your natural talents, exactly. Are you naturally analytical? Are you naturally empathetic? Are you physically coordinated?
So it's your hardware.
Yes. Your hardware plus your personality plus your values. When all those things align, you feel a sense of well-being. You're doing what you were built to do.
Okay, so that's the internal part. Then there's the second piece, service.
Service is the need to externalize that vocation. It's taking that natural talent and putting it out there for the community. It's the outlet. You can be the best guitarist in the world, but if you only ever play in your basement with the lights off, is it really vocation? No. It needs to connect.
And finally, desire.
Genuine desire. Not the desire to be rich or famous because TV told you that's what you should want, but the desire that springs naturally from doing your vocation in service to others.
The source tells a great story to illustrate this, the story of the musician. I think we should tell it in full because it really paints the picture. But I want to really dig into the mechanics of it because sometimes these stories can sound a bit, I don't know, a bit like a fairy tale.
Fair point. It's a relatable story, though. Imagine a young man, let's call him Leo. Leo discovers he loves music. He learns the guitar, then the bass. He studies music theory. He understands rhythm and structure. It's his passion. It's his vocation.
But as reality so often dictates, Leo doesn't become a rock star. He needs to eat. So he ends up in a cubicle. He gets a boring office job doing data entry and logistics.
Now, most people would see this as a tragedy, the death of a dream. I'm a musician trapped in a spreadsheet factory. They become bitter. They would hate the job. They do the bare minimum and just check out.
But Leo does something different. This is the clean power move.
Right. He doesn't complain. Instead, he applies his vocation music to his reality, the office.
Okay, stop there. How? How do you apply guitar solo to Excel spreadsheet? This is where I can get a little skeptical.
It's not about playing the guitar at his desk. It's about the principles of music. Music is all about flow, rhythm, pattern recognition, and harmony. Leo looks at the chaos of the office logistics, and he treats it like a disorganized song.
So he sees the paperwork not as boring data, but as notes that need to be arranged into a melody.
Exactly. He gamifies it, in modern terms. He finds a rhythm in the workflow. If I process these 3 orders, then I send this email, it creates a beat. He structures his day like a symphony, an intro, a rising action, a crescendo, an outro. He creates systems that flow smoothly instead of stuttering.
So he's using his natural talent for structure and harmony to fix the messy reality of the office.
And the result? He becomes incredibly productive. But, more importantly, he finds joy in a sterile environment. He isn't suffering through the day. He is playing the office like an instrument. Yeah. And presumably, he still plays music for people on the weekends.
So his vocation became an act of service. He improved the workflow for everyone. He made the environment better. He transformed reality, the boring office, without breaking it. He didn't try to force the office to be a nightclub.
Exactly. He aligned his inner self with the outer reality, and he created harmony. That is clean power. He has influence in that office now because he made it better, not because he bullied people into doing things his way.
It's beautiful. It's really about job crafting, taking the job you have and molding it to fit your strengths. But now we have to talk about scenario B, corrupt power, the reality we see most often.
Unfortunately, yes. This is what happens when we arrive at power dirty. We are full of conditioning. We're full of insecurities. We don't really know who we are.
We fall into the should-be trap.
We try to change reality to fit what we think should be, rather than what is best.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate for a minute here. Shouldn't we try to change things to how they should be? If I see an injustice, shouldn't I say it should be just?
That's a crucial distinction. There is a huge difference between moral justice and ego-driven delusion. Corrupt power isn't about fixing a true injustice. It's about enforcing my specific preference on everyone else because I think I'm the main character in the story.
Ah, I see. It's the manager who forces everyone to come into the office at 8 a.m., not because it's more productive, but because he just likes to see people sitting in their chairs.
Exactly. He thinks a good worker should be here at 8. Reality shows people are tired and less productive, but he uses his power to force the issue. He is bending reality to fit his outdated mental map.
And this is where that famous phrase comes in. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
We see this in negligent bosses. We see it in dictators. They have a false idea in their head. Maybe they think they are the smartest person in the room or that they deserve to be worshipped.
So they use their power to force everyone else to agree with them.
And in doing so, they burn up their true self. Because if you can force the world to obey your delusion, you never have to face the truth. You never have to grow. Your true self withers away in limbo. You become a shell. You're just a walking ego fueled by power.
It's like a vampire. You're dead inside, but you're consuming the energy of everyone around you just to keep the illusion alive. You surround yourself with yes men who tell you your map is right, even though you're driving everyone off a cliff.
And the destruction is total. It destroys the people around you, and it destroys your own soul.
This is a heavy realization. So I have to ask the listener right now, this is your reflexive question for this section. Do you know what your true vocation is? Do you know what your factory settings are?
And more importantly, if you were handed the power to change your life right now, if I gave you a magic wand, Would you use it to serve others and express your true talents? Or would you just use it to make people do what you want?
Would you create harmony, like the musician? Or would you just build a shrine to your own ego?
It's a question that requires total honesty, and the answer might scare you.
Moving on to section 4. We've seen the trap, we know the danger. Now we need the antidote. How do we handle this fire without getting burned?
The source is very clear here. The antidote to the destructive nature of power is responsibility.
It points out a historical failure, doesn't it?
It does. It notes that in 70,000 years of human history, we still haven't really created a culture of power that consistently serves the community over the individual. We are still struggling with this. We still worship the conqueror, not the servant.
So the solution is the twin concepts, service and responsibility. And here, the source takes us on a bit of a pop culture and historical tour.
It's a lineage of truth. It starts with, well, everyone knows the line. With great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man, Uncle Ben.
Stanley, amazing fantasy, #15. But the source traces it back further. Before Stan Lee, you had FDR, you had Winston Churchill, you had Voltaire, and you can go all the way back to the Bible, Luke 12:48.
From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded.
It's not just a comic book trope. It is a universal law. The source argues that this isn't just a nice sentiment. It's a mechanism of, well, of physics.
How so? Physics sounds intense.
Because influence has weight. Every time you push on reality, reality pushes back. The source uses the analogy of law. Changing a law isn't just editing text in a book. It's not just Control-F, replace.
Right. It affects real people.
When you change a law, you have to understand all the ripple effects. How will it be interpreted? How will it be abused? Who will it hurt 5 years from now? Hasty laws made with power but without responsibility, cause massive damage.
It reminds me of the Cobra effect. The British government in India wanted fewer cobras, so they offered a bounty for dead cobras.
And so people started breeding cobras just to kill them and get the money.
Exactly. Then the government stopped the bounty, and the breeders just released all the cobras, and the problem got even worse. They used power, the money, the law, but they didn't take responsibility for understanding human nature.
It's a perfect example. They didn't understand the system. And this leads to another favorite quote in the source, from Ursula K. Le Guin's A Wizard of Earthsea.
I have it right here. Do not change a single grain of sand until you know what good and evil will result.
The world in balance. That is the Le Guin principle. Every act of power disrupts the equilibrium of the world.
But hold on, I have to push back here a little. Do not change a single grain of sand. That sounds paralyzing. If I have to know every single outcome before I do anything, I'll never leave my bed, I'll never make a decision. Isn't that just fear all over again?
That's a valid fear. But Le Guin isn't saying do nothing. She's saying do nothing ignorantly. It's about the weight of the decision. It's about mindfulness.
So it's not paralysis, it's pause.
Yes, it's the pause before the action. The source uses a practical workplace example again. Imagine a boss ordering a team to work faster because the deadline is tight. That is an act of power. I command you to speed up.
Sounds standard. Happens every day.
But if that order ruins morale, if it causes mistakes, if people burn out and quit, the project fails. The boss used power, but failed to achieve the goal because they didn't take responsibility for the human element. True power requires knowing the consequence before giving the order.
You have to simulate the future in your head. You have to care about the outcome more than you care about the feeling of giving the command.
Precisely. You have to be willing to carry the weight of the result. If you order the speed up and the project fails, you have to be able to say, that was my fault.
And how many leaders do we know who actually do that? Usually they just blame the workers. They were lazy.
Because they want the power, but not the responsibility.
So here is the question for you, the listener. Think about the last time you tried to force a solution. The last time you put your foot down with your kids or your partner or your employees. Did you stop to consider the ripple effects?
Are you willing to take full responsibility for everything that happens after you get your way? If things go wrong, will you own it? Or will you blame the people who are just following your orders?
Responsibility is the price of admission for power. If you can't pay the price, you shouldn't take the ride.
Well put.
Now let's talk about the other half of the antidote. Service.
This is a word that needs some serious PR work.
Seriously, when I hear service, I think of servant. I think of weakness. I think of being low status, fetching coffee, bowing down, doing what I'm told. It just feels like losing.
That is the cultural baggage we all carry. We think service equals submission. But the source corrects this definition entirely. Real service is a position of strength. It is a position of balance.
The source uses an analogy that I think perfectly updates this concept for the 21st century. It says service is like posting on social media.
It's a surprising comparison, but it works. Think about why you post something you're proud of. You share a photo of a meal you cooked, or a piece of art you drew, or a tip you learned about fixing a car.
I share it because it feels good to express myself. Look what I did.
Right. It benefits you. It validates your identity. But you also share it because you think others will enjoy it. It benefits the viewer. They get a recipe or a laugh or a useful tip.
It's a win-win?
Exactly. Service isn't about scrubbing floors unless that happens to be your vocation. Service is simply sharing your vocation with the world. Here is what I can do. Here is what I am good at. I give this to you.
And the changes you generate for others bounce back to benefit you. If I'm the musician in the office and I make the workflow better for everyone, my day's better too. If I cook a great meal for my family, I get to eat it too. Plus, I get the joy of their company.
And this is the protective mechanism. This is how service defeats the enemy of power.
How does it protect us?
Because the ego, that nasty, corrupt part of us, is selfish. It wants to hoard. It wants to take, I want the money, I want the praise. But service forces you to look outward. You cannot hoard power if your goal is to share it.
It acts as a filter. If I'm focused on how my power helps you, I'm not focused on how my power makes me a god.
It keeps the true self alive and active. It keeps the flow moving. It stops you from becoming that stagnant, corrupt swamp of a person.
So, listener, here is your challenge for this section. And I want you to really try this. If you viewed your daily work not as a chore, but as a post you are sharing with the world, if you viewed it as a way to show off what you can do, how would that change your attitude?
How can you turn your current situation into a win-win? How can you stop working for the man and start serving your community for your own benefit?
That reframing is powerful. It takes the victim mentality right out of the equation. You aren't a slave to your job. You are a contributor using the job as a platform.
It does. It puts the power back in your hands.
Which brings us to the final section of our deep dive, the confession.
The meta-turn, as we like to call it.
We have to bring this back to the title of the show and the title of the source. A Powerless Mage Presents. The author calls himself a powerless mage.
It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? He's writing about power. He's giving us all this wisdom. Why is he powerless? Is he just being modest?
No, I don't think it's modesty. I think it's a confession of the limits of influence.
The author wants to change reality. Specifically, he wants to change how people act. He wants a world where people use clean power. He wants you to be better. But he cannot snap his fingers. He cannot force awareness into your head. He cannot use corrupt power to force you to be a better person. Because if he did, if he brainwashed you into being good, he would become the very enemy he is fighting.
That is the paradox. If he forced us to be good, he would be a dictator. He would be using corrupt power to achieve a good end, which spoils the whole thing.
Exactly. So he is powerless in the sense of control. He has zero control over you. He cannot make you listen to this. He cannot make you change your life.
But he has influence.
He has the true methodology. He provides the information. He provides the arguments. He provides the tools. He lays the map out on the table for you.
It's a transfer of responsibility.
Right.
The author's service is to be clear and truthful, to give us the map.
But the listener's responsibility, your responsibility, is to take that information and turn it into real, lived experience.
The ultimate realization here is that no book, no deep dive, no guru can change your life. You can listen to Powerless Mage presentations for 10 years, but if you don't act,
nothing happens. You are the only one who can authorize change in your own reality. You're the gatekeeper of your own soul.
So the final reflexive question is the biggest one of all. We've handed you the tools today. You see the trap of power, how it burns and corrupts. You see the freedom of service, how it aligns and creates. The question is no longer, what should I do?
No. The question now is, will you choose to act?
The door is open. The map is in your hands. But you are the one who has to walk through it.
That is the essence of the Powerless Mage. I can show you the magic, but I cannot cast the spell for you.
So let's bring it all home. Let's summarize what we've covered today because we went deep.
We learned that power is not a prize, but the third and most dangerous enemy on the path of knowledge. It is a fire that tests our character.
We learned that to pass this test, we must reject the corrupt path of forcing the world to fit our delusions. Instead, we must choose the clean path.
We must align our vocation, our factory settings, with service. We must accept the heavy weight of responsibility. We have to be like Spider-Man, like the wise wizard who hesitates to move a stone because he knows the avalanche it might cause.
And we must redefine service not as slavery, but as sharing our strength with the world. It's about being an influencer in the truest sense of the word.
It's a complete overhaul of how we interact with reality. It's moving from fighting the current to swimming with it.
Now, I have some specific instructions for you. Don't simply take our word for it.
Please don't. That would just be another form of blind belief. We don't want followers, we want practitioners.
Put everything you heard here to the test. Make this knowledge truly yours. Try it in your workplace tomorrow. Try the musician approach to your spreadsheet. Try service in your relationship. See if the dynamic changes.
We want to hear from you. This is a conversation, not a lecture. Share your ideas, your thoughts, and your experiences in the comment section. Did you try to tame the fire? Did you get burned? Did you find a new rhythm? Let us know.
And if this deep dive was useful to you, please like the podcast and subscribe. We have many more enemies and allies to discuss on this path.
There is always more to learn.
Thank you for giving us your time today. Go out there and face the fire.
And do it with eyes wide open.
Remember, the power is yours.